Work continues in Starbase as SpaceX is upgrading its facilities to support the next version of Starship. We'll see all that and more in this Starbase summary. My name is Marty and I'll be guiding you around Starbase today, and we'll be starting at the Massey's test site, which in last episode was home of perhaps a bit of an issue with B18.3, the test tank that SpaceX uses to validate the design of the Super Heavy booster's front end, the end that connects with the Starship. So during the test, they loaded the tank with cryogenic fluids, presumably nitrogen, and at some point something gave way and the structure crumpled ever so slightly. You can actually see that near the bottom quarter or something of the test tank. And they're now tearing the test setup apart, removing the cap that was on top, presumably providing pressure. But honestly, we haven't heard anything from SpaceX yet, so we don't really know whether it was intended or not. Either way, they are continuing testing at the site with this test of the S39.1 test tank. Moving over from the Massey's test location, we're now looking at the production site. And from this perspective, we're also seeing the rocket garden, which has several Starship vehicles and Super Heavy vehicles or their remains. And something that's interesting in this shot specifically is over on the left, where it seems like there's only one vehicle, but actually perspective is making it a bit hard to see. We're looking at two vehicles in the center now. The thing with the white tanks is B17, Booster 17, and the thing with the black tanks sticking out in front of that is Booster 18. So that is just a trick of perspective that makes it a bit hard to see, but our team in Starbase provided me with notes so I can explain it to you all. Now, this is another thing that's hanging out nearby, and that is a static fire stand. So this is another static fire stand that's going to Massey's to static fire the ships, where they turn on the engines, but don't release the ship into the air to verify that everything is working as it should be. Meanwhile, SpaceX is expanding its manufacturing facilities, and we're looking at the new build, the Gigabay, that's rising up into the air with these four massive cranes building the building. And you can really see the structure rise up if you go back through the last, I don't know how many weeks, but if you go back through the last weeks, you can see the structure getting bigger and bigger and bigger. What's interesting is they currently have two megabays. We can actually see into one of the megabays. We see ship 39 in there. So that is megabay 2, and that's being used to build starships. The other megabay 1, is facing the other direction, so we can't really look into it. But that megabay is being used to build boosters. And now the Gigabay is going to combine these two functions into one building, so they will use it for constructing boosters and ships, and has a higher capacity too. And it will also be a lot taller, so they will be able to construct the newer versions of Starships, which are supposed to be much taller than the current versions. So it gives SpaceX a bit of room to expand. So this will be a very, very important building for SpaceX, indeed. Across from this production site, across from where this Gigabay is being built, they're also doing some earthworks, some digging. Whatever they will be doing there, I'm sure that we will see it very, very soon. Now we're looking at that ship 39, as I said, in the Megabay 2. And we can see that its aft flaps have been installed. Just a few weeks ago, we also saw them put up scaffolding and then take it down. I'm not quite sure what happened, what they used that scaffolding for. But either way, it seems that they're done with whatever they were doing and now continuing on the work. Meanwhile, we're looking into the factory, throughout the factory windows, and we're looking at Nosecones. So earlier we were looking at the Nosecone for ship 46, and this is the one for ship 40. And yeah, in the past few weeks, past few months, perhaps, we've seen them working on these Nosecone tiles, on these heat shield tiles, and that's also why these many of these tiles have these 3 dots, because it appears that they've drilled into these tiles. Now, these tiles are attached to the Nosecones with pins. Every Nosecone is like clicking onto 3 pins, and the fact that they've been drilling 3 holes into these tiles makes it kind of appear that they were like kind of investigating something with these pins. And now we're looking at a Nosecone, at the Nosecone for ship 45. And apparently, yeah, it appears that there's a robot arm working on this Nosecone. I'm not quite sure what it's doing, but I do know that they use robot arms to install these pins that I was just talking about. So perhaps they're getting ready to do that, but don't quote me on that, please. These are some pipes heading for the launch site. And it seems that we are now heading for the launch site ourselves as well, because this is the new perimeter wall that they are building for Pad 2. And Pad 2, of course, is the new launch pad there that they are building to launch Starship version 3. And we've seen that launch pad going up over the last months, years, nearly. I believe it hasn't been much more than a year now. And they're nearing completion, but there's still a lot of work to do, and one of the things they're doing is building this wall. And also, like I've been saying over the last few weeks, that this launch mount for Pad 2 is looking increasingly complete, but work is still continuing, because there's still some scaffolding up there, and we can also see that there are people working on top of the launch mount and inside its structures as well. This is the Starbase variant of fireworks, the sparks from demolition, it appears, on Tower 1. And meanwhile, some welding is going on, it looks like, on Pad 2 that we were just looking at. So Tower 1, the one in the background with the sparks, is of course the tower for the original launch pad that launched the first 11 flights that we've seen so far, and they're now retrofitting it. They've been tearing it apart for the last several months, and they're slowly starting to retrofit it to also feature or also enable the launches of these new versions of Starship. Meanwhile, this is Tower 2, which has a quick disconnect arm for Starship. Well, both towers have this arm, but this is the one on Tower 2, and they're still outfitting it. They've installed it a couple of weeks ago, and you can see all these feed lines and hydraulics, and I don't know what's going into there. There are some people working on the bottom of the screen there, which is a great way to get a sense of scale. And yeah, to some extent, it kind of looks like a spaghetti of lines, although it's much more organized than the average plate of spaghetti, I suppose. But still, it needs working on, and these people are installing some kind of cabling, it looks like. Of course, many systems going on these quick disconnect arms. Now we're moving over to Orbital Pad 1. That is the pad, as I said, that they launched the first 11 flights from. But after many weeks of demolition, they're finally starting to build things up again. And one of the things we're seeing right now is that they have started drilling piles for the foundation of the new launch pad. So we were just looking at that gigantic launch pad for Pad 2. And, well, a similarly gigantic structure will have to go up here to support Starship launches again from Pad 1. And, of course, whenever you build a gigantic structure, a heavy structure of steel and concrete, and that then has to carry a very heavy Starship and super heavy stack filled all the way with liquid oxygen and methane, yeah, you will have to build a good foundation. Now we're going up the tower, up the original launch tower, the tower of Pad 1, and here you can see that quick disconnect arm of this tower. And it looks quite different from the quick disconnect arm of the second tower that we were just looking at. Oh, now we're zooming in on it, which is very nice. And you can see that this looks much more like that chaotic plate of spaghetti, where the other tower, the lines were, the feed lines were like very much running parallel. This is a bit of a chaos because SpaceX started out with one design and then they changed something on the ship and they had to move things around. So it ended up being this chaotic upgraded version that they would just add things onto and make changes to. Speaking about changes, they're now cutting into the tower, it looks like. Yeah, like I said, the demolition work continues, but they're also starting to build it up again. Near the launch site, they're also working on an air separation unit. So SpaceX will be using this machinery, this installation, to separate the air. And in the last Starbase summary, we saw one tank going up for this installation, and now you can barely see it through the fog. But yeah, the second tank is going up, and now with the fog cleared, you can see actually that they are the exact same tanks that are, or seemingly the exact same tanks installed next to each other. So SpaceX will use this air separation unit to separate the air into liquid oxygen and liquid nitrogen, and also some other fluids probably. But it's the former two that they are most interested in, because they are like bringing in truckloads and truckloads and truckloads of that stuff to support the Starship launches and test campaigns. So if they can produce it on site, that will save them a lot of time, a lot of money, and so many truckloads coming in. This is some kind of skid that's also needed for the air separation unit, I think. It looks like it has all kinds of pipes and installations on it, and it's now being hooked up to a crane. So yeah, they will be lifting it into place, and there it goes up. So you can see that some of the pipes are capped off, but they will undoubtedly hook these lines up to something in the future. And I can only assume that that has to do with this air separation unit, although it seems like they're putting it back down, but that could perhaps be just to rebalance the load or something like that. Either way, this has been another Starbase summary, so thank you for watching, and be awesome everyone.